Welcome to this week's episode of the Savvy Flipper Show. I'm your host and business strategist, Clara Rose, and this is Larry Vanderhoof, our resident expert and construction manager. Welcome to another week.
Yes.
Are you ready for this?
As ready as I'm going to be.
Okay, so when we get started, we just like to remind you that being a savvy flipper means that you're doing it by the numbers. Number one, do-it-yourself property inspecting. Number two, accurately estimating your renovations. And number three, effective project management.
Because if you're not flipping by the numbers, then you're leaving money on the table.
And we don't want to leave money on the table. That means more money in our pocket. Today we are going to talk about the basics of accurate estimating. This is a big one. This is one of the three that we talk about each week, right? But this is where you can get yourself into a pickle.
Well, yeah, and on the flip side of that, this is where you can actually make more money than you anticipated.
Yes,
Right.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in and talk about the basics of accurate estimating. First thing that we're going to talk about today is comparing your comps.
Right.
Comparing your comps. So understanding what you're doing. First of all, comps are comparables in the area, for those who don't know. So what else is selling in the area, and what do they look like, and for what price?
Right. And probably the most common and easiest way to do that is just go online onto some of the real estate sites.
Sure.
and pull up recent sales and houses in the area and just take a look at what they have inside. I mean, what do they look like? Have the vast majority of them been remodeled at some point? Have they put in hardwood floors, granite countertops, new appliances, whatever, because you're going to want to be able to match as close as possible what the comps are in that area.
In that area. And that just starts with doing your due diligence right up front. So
Right.
whether you're doing it online or maybe you use a software like we use PropStream, but Propelio or a number of different softwares out there that you can look up the address and it will tell you everything you ever want to know about the property.
Right.
And including if it's ever been renovated, when it last sold, all those things. And then it lets you look at stuff in the area, which is super important. Right? You don't want to be the only one in the area spending that extra money for granite countertops if nobody else's renovations included it.
Right. Yeah. You need to know what your budget is starting off. That'll kind of give you a little better idea of maybe you're not even looking in the right neighborhood. Maybe you need to look elsewhere because everybody's gone high end and it just isn't going to fit in your budget. So you're going to maybe want to look in a different neighborhood, a different area. And then the same thing on the flip side is maybe the area that you're looking at hasn't done a lot of renovations, and what they have done have been kind of middle of the road, and your budget is going to allow you to make the house upscale, with the granite countertops and new appliances and things like that. But then you've kind of priced yourself out of the market in that area. So these are all things that you kind of have to weigh and take a look at and make sure that you're where you need to be.
Checking your comps, making sure that you are staying with the neighborhood that you're in, staying like with like. If nobody else has granite countertops, you could do them, of course, but you're wasting your money, right? Use your money somewhere else. Keep more of that money in your pocket.
Right. I mean, it's common sense. If you're in a neighborhood full of $150,000, $180,000 houses, and by the time you're done with yours, it's going to sell for $2.5 million, it's liable to be sitting there for a while because of the inflated price in that particular neighborhood.
Right. So you have to think about when people are driving through a neighborhood, they're looking at the neighborhood, what the houses are like. They're looking at, what the school district is like. All of those things come into play. So you don't want to be the most expensive house for sale in the neighborhood.
Right.
You can avoid that by not over renovating. And then, of course, you don't want to be the lowest ticket price in the neighborhood either, because then you really are leaving potential money on the table.
Correct.
If you under. Okay. All right. So super important comps. Start there so that you can then accurately estimate from there. But you've got to know what you're starting with. So step one for sure. Okay. So let's talk now about replacement costs. So this is something that if you are a brand new real estate investor, this is the scary part. This is the thing that people ask all the time, right? How do I even know how to budget or estimate for renovations or repairs? Because they're nervous about that. So understanding the useful life of something is a really great place to start.
It is. It is. Useful life really comes into play in some of the larger ticket items. Your roof, your AC unit, if you have pool equipment, things like that, that you know are going to need to be replaced in a particular amount of time. Most of your roofs are going to run anywhere from 20 to 30 years on an average 3-tab or composition roof. Most of the time, it's just a matter of knowing the current ages of those things before you try to put your own numbers together. If a roof is getting close to being replaced or needing to be replaced, you choose not to do it. It's going to affect the sale price, obviously, of that house, because you can bet that the new buyers are going to take that into consideration.
Sure.
More often than not, they'll actually request that you either change it or deduct X amount off of the price.
Because it really needs to be done.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you need to know the ages of some of these things going into it.
And then your approximate useful life of those things so that you know when, this 20-year roof or 25 years worth of roof, it's time to replace it. Or this AC unit is really, really old. There's a good chance that it's going to conk out soon, and people are going to be paying attention to that when they're looking to purchase the home, which, of course, if you're flipping, that's your goal. Make it pretty and then make money selling it.
Yep. And then as far as pricing those types of things out, there's just there's no way of getting around it. If you're looking to add money to your bottom line, you're just going to have to do the legwork. You've got to get out there and you've got to find out what these particular things are costing right now in the market. Are you going to save money by going after them yourself, or are you going to save money by having your contractor, just going through a contractor to have it done? These are all things that you're going to have to check out for yourself. And it's, again, just legwork. It's just getting out there and learning the industry, learning, what are the most common things that you're going to do in this house, and start searching.
Start searching.
Yep.
So, of course, we always recommend that you create yourself a master list. So a list of common things that you're going to end up replacing and putting a price tag on them. And as a matter of fact, in our course, Flipping by the Numbers, we have put one of those together for you. So if you're thinking about jumping into the course, that will be provided for you. If you're thinking, I don't need someone to help me with those pieces, that's what we recommend to you. Spend the time, do the research, find out what the low, the medium, and the high ticket price for each of these components is likely to be.
Well, and we can use a perfect example of a pool enclosure area that we recently refinished, redone. We put new pavers in, redid the pool, in fact, extended the pool deck out. We did quite a few things, added some concrete sidewalks and that type of thing. And we got a proposal, an estimate from a licensed contractor, and he came in at, I think it was just shy of $35,000 or something like that, which wasn't a terrible price. But then when I did my own research, went in and find my own pavers and all that kind of stuff, we've cut the bill literally in half. So we're doing all of that work for about half the money that we were quoted by a contractor.
Right.
So
there's a place you can save some money
yeah,
by doing the legwork yourself.
Absolutely. Sometimes it doesn't pan out, but more often than not, you will be able to
save some,
to put a little extra cha-ching in your
pocket. And that's just as simple as finding a contractor to do the work, which is we have installers doing all this stuff, right? So it's the sourcing of it that is where you'll really save the money. If you keep in mind that a contractor, he's going to buy it at cost, and then he's going to mark it up, and then on top of that, he's also going to charge you for installation.
Right.
So that piece in the middle, that markup on your product, is where you can really keep some extra money in your pocket
Yep.
by doing the legwork yourself. So knowing what those things run you is going to be really important as you start to put together the estimate. Remember, you haven't even got a contract on this house yet.
Right.
Right?
No, you're just trying to figure out if your budget is going to allow you to
Right.
do what has to be done in that particular area.
Right. To make it even so that you can get a deal. It's all about being able to negotiate effectively.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to say, if I buy the house for $100,000 and I need to put $50,000 worth of work into it and I can sell it for $200,000, now this works.
Right.
Right? This works for me. But if you're wrong on the repair renovation costs, it could be a happy day, it could be
Yeah.
a sad day.
Yeah, that 50,000 profit can quickly dwindle to 25 or 30,000.
Yeah, or less.
Or less. But at the same time, if it's done properly, that 50,000 could turn into 60 or 70,000. You just, it's all about getting out there and doing the work, doing the
Yeah.
legwork.
So then the truth about the replacement cost is if you have a checklist to work off of that has the pricing, low, medium, and high pricing right there for you, you can on the fly, so to speak, look at your checklist, fill it in. At least the one in Flipping by the Numbers, we have a place for you to fill it in. So you literally just fill out the form. Then when you do the math and you add it up, you know what it's going to cost
Right.
you.
Don't try to keep it in your head.
And that's what we are going to talk about next. Simple math, right? It's really just simple math. You need to know what each of the pieces cost, the components are going to cost you or likely going to cost you, and then use forms or worksheets or spreadsheets or whatever it is that you need to crunch those numbers.
Yep. Yeah, and get yourself a 3-ring binder so that everything that you fill out, regardless of whether it's a napkin in a restaurant or what have you, you can put that into something so that you have it for a reference. Sticky notes don't work because sticky notes get lost. And so if you can write it on a full sheet of paper, regardless of how little or how much it is, 3-hole punch it, put it in that binder.
Yep,
So
put it in your
you've
binder.
always got something to refer back to.
That becomes a resource really for you. Right. Now, in Flipping by the Numbers, we have all of the forms, contracts, everything already provided for you. But if you are not one of our students, then you just need to create for yourself all the pieces, bits and pieces that you're going to need. All the forms, all the spreadsheets, all the checklists. They're going to help you be consistent and not flying by the seat of your pants.
Right. And you'll be surprised at how handy those things come in, especially after you start doing 2 or 3 or 4 flips. You'll get into a house that kind of rings the bell. Hey, this kind of is sort of like that first one we did, and you can flip back to that and say, okay, here's what we did there, and we did well, or we didn't do so well, or what have you. So it's research and
that
documentation.
Kind of creates a benchmark for the future as you go. Pretty soon, you're going to be able to say, okay, this kitchen is about the size of that other kitchen we did, and we did kind of middle of the road on this particular kitchen, and it cost us X. So as time goes on, those things will pop into your head, and you'll realize, okay, I'm going to spend $20,000 on this, or I'm going to spend $15,000 on that.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, since most of you are newbies and that you're here to learn, take the time to create the forms or join something like Flipping by the Numbers where the forms are provided for you along with education about how to use them. Either way, have a systemized way that you can keep it simple.
Yep. You can be extremely successful in real estate investing if you just make sure that you dot all of your I's and cross all of your T's and be diligent about what you're doing. Too many people get into it and they think, I've seen some of these shows on TV. I can do this. And they get through a house and they say, this isn't for me, and they move on. And it's because they didn't do their due diligence.
Yep, and they weren't systemized in the way that they did it. So we often say this on this show, but the average flipper nationally flips one property.
Yeah, and there's a reason for
One,
that.
one property, because people watch shows and think, we could totally do that. And then they go to the MLS probably, and or have a realtor friend, and they buy full asking price on a house, right? So
Yeah.
they're just not buying it correctly to start with. And then they pour their hard work and money into it, doing it all themselves. And 6 months later, they sell the house and take $10,000 home, or
Yeah.
they're $10,000 in the hole. Either way, 6 months of worth of work, they're like throwing their hands in the air saying, yeah, we're never doing that again.
Right, right, yeah. I mean, you make 10 or 15,000 over the course of 6 months. You break that down into
Let's look at what that is hourly, because it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
good. And most of you, we understand, are starting this as a side hustle,
Right.
right? You're likely have a full-time job, and you have, family, or maybe even have your own business like we do.
Well, and this might be you. You might have some money set aside that you've been saving, and you're wondering how to invest it and whatnot. And you can, hey, maybe we'll get into real estate investing. That's a great decision. Real estate's going to give you absolutely the best return of any investment that you're going to find. However, it's
If you do it right.
yeah, exactly.
If you do it
you got
right.
to know what you're doing, and don't be afraid to ask a mentor or people who have done it before. If you're getting stuck on something or you have questions, you pick up the phone or you go online and send an email or a text and get your questions answered. Don't just plug your nose and close your eyes and dive
Jump
in.
Those are the people that get themselves in trouble.
Yeah.
So if you're brand new and you haven't actually gotten your first house under contract, so here's how simple the process really is. Once you get your foot in the door and you have that first meeting with them, you're going to walk around and have a look at what the house actually looks like, and you're going to take your checklist or your worksheet with you, right, of all the components that you could possibly want to swap out in this house. Having trouble speaking, and walk through it and check mark one at a time each room. And then when you're done, you can excuse yourself for a couple of minutes and say, I just need to crunch some numbers, as you don't want them staring you down while you're
Right.
crunching your
Right.
numbers. Some people go out to their vehicle. Some people just go, step in the other room, whatever works for them, and do the math.
Right.
Add it up and say, okay, based on what I've actually seen while I'm here, this is what I think it's going to cost me to renovate. And you have already done your due diligence, right? So you
Right.
already know what they owe on the property, right? If there's any liens, taxes due, all of those things. So then you'll be able to make them an offer below asking price, probably, or well below, because you've got to make money on this. We can't pay retail.
Right.
You're not going to make any money in it.
Right, and I might also add is never assume. I mean, you might go out and you might crunch the numbers and all that kind of stuff and come back and think, wow, that's almost stealing this house for offering them X for whatever it is. I don't even know if I'll go through with this. Just don't ever assume, because you don't know. You never know what position these people are in. They might jump on it, or they might tell you to take a hike, but it doesn't matter. Because it's business, it's not personal. So don't get offended if they turn you down. At the same time, don't assume that they're going to turn it down just because it seems like a low ball number. More often than not, you're actually helping somebody out of a situation that they have no way out of. So just kind of keep that in mind.
Especially if you're working with people who have distressed properties, right? If it's
Right.
run down and distressed and it hasn't been renovated, hasn't had good care, taken care of well, there's a reason for that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It could be that they're elderly, could be that they
It's financially strapped.
not able to maintain and keep up on their home. And all of those things are valid reasons, and not for us to judge. We're there to say, at least in our business, there to say, we have an option, right?
Yeah.
And we're the home of the fresh start. If you're looking for someone to come in and get you out from under something for your home, and you need some money in your pocket so you can have a fresh start, those are the kinds of renovations, the kinds of flips that we do, the kinds of properties that we invest in. And as an investor, it's totally up to you how you handle your business, but that's how we approach it.
Yep.
Win-win for everybody. Okay, so before we run out of time entirely, I don't want to miss our tool of the week, which is always a fun one for me. So this week's tool of the week is a voltage meter. What is a voltage meter? A voltage meter checks voltage.
Right.
Why do I want to do that?
Well, voltage meter works better than a fork. You don't want to be sticking anything.
Don't use a fork.
Voltage meters are to check, obviously, outlets, things to make sure that all the top and the bottom circuits are working, that, the power is going to all the places that it needs to be going, right? Right, so that you're not surprised and you find out, oh, gee, half of these outlets aren't working. There's an electrical bill that I wasn't anticipating.
Right.
So, it might seem like a pretty minor thing to consider, but boy, I tell you what, it has saved us on more than one occasion. You just take it. Some of them are even smaller than the ones we just had on there. They're about the size of an ice cube, and you just
check
got
out
two
the
prongs
plug.
in there. You plug it in. If the light comes on, you're good
You
to
got
go.
power.
You move to the next one. Just make sure that you check both top and bottom, because sometimes the circuit can be broke between the two.
Between the two.
And so, yeah.
And that just tells you that. And this is easy to do because you're already wandering around the house anyway with your checklist, right? To try and determine what you're going to offer them for or negotiate for a price. So you're trying to figure out how to accurately estimate for your renovations and repairs.
Right.
So just check out the plugins when you're in the bathroom or in the kitchen. And when you find ones that don't work,
make sure it's not a switch issue. Because sometimes there are wall switches.
Good
You
point.
have to flip them on.
For them to work.
And then they come on.
Yep.
So,
And you'll figure that as you go, you'll find those things. But that's really great information to have. If the entire one side of the kitchen, none of the outlets work, there's a sign.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they may be aware of it. Likely they're aware of it. You can ask them about it.
Could
but
be a breaker. I mean,
yeah.
who knows? There's any number of things that can be the issue. But it's things that you want to figure out before you make your offer, obviously, because hiring an electrician as part of the proposal process, that's a pretty good chunk of change.
Could be expensive. So good to know. Okay, so we're just about out of time. Get yourself a voltage meter, especially you newbies. But I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about business savvy, because, that's my thing, the business savvy part. Paperwork. Now, I hear you rolling your eyes when I talk about paperwork because most people just don't love paperwork. But I'm here to tell you that the forms, the checklists, the price lists, the worksheets, your useful life lists, all of those things are what help you stay systematic. And systems mean you don't miss things. Right? If you always are using a checklist when you do your do-it-yourself inspection, right? You're not likely to miss something because it's a checklist.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm always surprised at how often people don't record things and don't go back and don't use a useful life. I would venture to say 10% of real estate investors actually use a useful life list, and probably even smaller than that even know what they are. But they are actually vital information to have.
Yep. And I think some newbies get so excited because they're in the door, right? They're in the door, they're getting to negotiate a deal. Maybe it's their first deal, maybe it's, the third or fourth negotiation. So it's easy to be so excited that you wander through the house thinking, oh yeah, I'll remember all this, but you literally won't, right? You literally won't remember it without any form or systemized way of working through the proposal. You're never going to give good, strong numbers if you don't have a checklist for your estimating or for your inspecting, and you don't have some sort of a form or worksheet to use for your accurate estimating for your negotiations.
Right.
Super important. And then, of course, once you have the contract, whilst we're not here today to talk about project management, there are also important forms that you need to keep on top of those things. And of course, they are available where?
At Flipping Savvy.
Yeah, Flipping by the Numbers has those forms if you are interested. Of course, we do have a masterclass that happens each month. If you would like to join us for a Saturday, 5 hours of real education from industry professionals, not fluffy stuff, right? We're not there to blow smoke and give you a raw session either, right? It's not about that, right? We're there to teach you actual, tangible things that you're going to need to truly be a savvy flipper.
Bring all your questions, and
Yep.
we will answer them and see if we can't get you off on the right foot.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's no obligation, but at the end of the masterclass, we always offer an opportunity to be a part of the Flipping by the Numbers family. So if you want somebody to walk that path with you, to provide all the forms that you're going to need, to educate you on all of the pieces, and probably the most important piece is that you have access to a professional who can help you walk through the pieces. So I will help you walk through getting your business started if you haven't done that already, everything from naming and choosing what kind of entity and logos and websites and all that stuff that you're going to need someone to talk with you about. I'm happy to help you with that. And then, of course, Larry is our resident expert who can walk through all the other pieces.
Yep, just email, text, or phone call away.
Yes.
Any questions? I mean, even if you're on site looking at stuff and you run across something that you're not sure of, you just pick up the phone, give us a call, and we will see if we can help you out, help you through it.
Yep. That's what we're there for, to coach and mentor you along the way. And we would love to have you as part of the Flipping by the Numbers family. We are, of course, out of time for today, but we appreciate that you come and spend every Saturday morning with us, at least for 30 minutes. And we love educating you and sharing this new adventure in our own lives that we're passionate about. If you are interested in getting signed up for the master class, go to beflippingsavvy.com. That's beflippingsavvy.com and get registered for the next master class coming up pretty soon. All right, we're out of time. We'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place. Thanks so much for being here once again. Have a great week.